Hey everyone, and welcome to Quick Review, where I'm going to be taking a look at
Trüberbrook.
today, a game whose name I'm not even going to attempt to butcher. This is a game that I felt had huge potential, and I clearly wasn't alone because this game was kickstarted and it raised twice its initial goal. Unfortunately, I feel like the game fell short in more ways than one. First of all, the game was literally short. It took a smidge more than 4 hours for me to get from the start of the game to the end of the game. I feel like this was probably the worst part for me. There was this beautifully crafted world, this blossoming great story, and you just wanted to be able to spend more time in the game than the game actually gave you to spend. One problem for me was that there were only 2 chapters that felt like they delivered on what I had expected from this game. Chapter 1 and Chapter 3. Both of these chapters succeeded at being a point-and-click game where you're trying to solve a mystery and unravel the plot. Both chapters also feel beautiful and really run you through this handcrafted world. And before I go any further, let's talk about that quickly.
Trüberbrook.
Scenery was handcrafted and modeled using a technique called photogrammetry. This technique has popped up in a few games here and there, like Star Wars Battlefront, typically to create a photorealistic environment and models, because that's what photogrammetry is, pictures that are mapped to 3D models. So, the
Trüberbrook.
team basically created heavily stylized real-world models of environments for the game, and then brought those real-world models into the game, which are all of the environments that we actually see. And you know what? It worked. The visual style of this game is beautiful, and they really hit a home run with this approach. Although, the character models do look out of place at times. I get that they're not as realistic, but some of the time they just really don't fit in their surrounding environment. It's not a big deal though, strange occurrences like this are few and far between. That's where most of the good in this game ends. While some of the chapters were fun, every single chapter felt a little monotonous and linear at times. There was no complexity to the puzzles that you were solving. In fact, outside of chapters 1 and 3, you're not really solving puzzles at all. Every other chapter felt more like a fetch quest, where you're just running back and forth finding items to achieve a certain goal or satisfy a certain person. Honestly, it felt like parts of the game were a little rushed. Without trying to spoil anything, the game starts off with a compelling story. I'd even say a good story, and that continues for a while. Except all of a sudden, you rush through a couple of fetch quests, the world and your freedom of movement starts to open up. Then the game's over. There are characters and storylines that are introduced that seem to just disappear. It really felt like there was a plan for a larger, more complete story, and then for one reason or another, they just had to wrap the game up and concluded it where it was. I can truly say this game has one of the least satisfying conclusions I've ever experienced, and one of the largest letdowns of a final encounter I've ever played through in a game. And it kills me, because it didn't have to be like this. The game was so good, until it wasn't. The actual mechanics of the game are about what you'd expect from a point-and-click adventure. There are a few minor annoyances, but nothing detrimental and definitely nothing that could really negatively impact your experience with the game. Either ways, I'm going to talk about it. So, when you're moving around, you have this semi-slow pace and you can double-click to move a little bit faster. The moving faster bit is great. The problem is that if you're moving towards an object that you clicked on, you can't move fast. You can break the path you've set and manually double-click to get closer, but I just think you should have been able to move briskly towards an object to begin with. It would have sped the game up. Actually, that might have brought the playtime down to 3 hours. At the very beginning of the game, you briefly play as Gretchen, another character in the story. Except, whenever you make a choice, the wrong face appears. This is the beginning of the game. How did nobody notice this? How did nobody point this out? How did this happen? Really though, the actual mechanics are solid. There isn't that much to complain about. There are definitely a few secrets I think I missed throughout the game. I say that because there are definitely things I didn't open and items I never used. They could have all been red herrings, but I feel like bits of the story were missing. And it's possible an alternate path could have provided more plot clarity. It's also possible that I'm wrong and I missed absolutely nothing. Either ways, I don't see a reason to go back and play through the game again. Last but not least, I didn't hate the voice acting in this game. There was some humor in it, and you could tell the writers didn't take things too seriously. All the characters sounded good. The protagonist's voice acting felt a little weird at times, though, and maybe the voice didn't quite fit the character, but it wasn't that jarring, and honestly, I think they did an overall good job on bringing their characters to life. Anyways, that's
Trüberbrook.
the game was undeniably beautiful, and parts of it were really fun as well. My biggest issue is just that I felt like there wasn't enough value for the current price tag. If the game was a little bit cheaper, 4 hours of playtime could make sense, and they could expand it through additional volumes that are all based on the lore that this game set up. Unfortunately, that's just not the case in the game's current state, and I can't really praise it as a whole. If you want to give
Trüberbrook.
a shot, maybe just play the first 3 chapters, put the game down, stop playing it, and just write your own ending. It'll probably be better. They tried something cool, and it just fell a little short. If there's ever another
Trüberbrook.
I'll happily give this world a second chance. It definitely deserves it. And don't forget, this is just in my opinion. If you disagree, feel like I left something out, or just want to suggest a game for me to review in the future, please leave a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching and check back weekly for more reviews.